And
Jacob,
there.
welcome back.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. How was your trip?
My trip was excellent. I got to meet a lot of Eastern Orthodox Christians.
And how was that experience?
Um, they so Father Stephen DeYoung said to me, well, I was like, you guys drink, right? Because I was gonna make a kiddush and for him and anybody else who wanted to join, and um, we made kiddush, and I brought alcohol
Hmm.
as a Chabadnik should, and he so we could have a little Farbrengen. Um, and he said, wherever you find four Eastern Orthodox priests, you will find a fifth. So, as opposed to a fifth of vodka,
Hmm.
I I I, I brought three handles of alcohol,
Hmm.
and I was assured that it would be all finished.
Consumed.
I hope it was all consumed. I don't know if it was all consumed because I certainly had to go around a few times and be like, "Hello, is this gonna like? Are you gonna have some? Are you gonna have some?"
Hmm.
So these are not Chabadniks. That's for sure.
Wait, are they part of the Russian branch of the Orthodox Church, or like what?
A lot of that. Well, this was mostly Antiochian because it was at Antiochian village, I think.
Maybe we need to give them ouzo. What's the Antiochian drink?
I guess. But oh no, I didn't bring three handles of vodka. I brought vodka, tequila, and honey flavored whiskey.
Honey flavored whiskey. Interesting.
If you haven't tried honey flavored whiskey, if you want to do shots and you're not an alcohol person, flavored whiskey is good for sipping and for so honey whiskey. I make no claims that all honey flavored whiskey is kosher, but as far as I know, honey
Mhm.
flavored whiskey does not require a hechsher. So
I see. Interesting. No, I'll take that into account. Yeah, because I'm not much of a drinking person, but
how many Ferbrengens have you been to since you've been to Austin?
um, official Farbrengen. I don't know if I've been to a Farbrengen actually, I yeah, that's
Hold on. There was no Ferbrengen at the end of Simchat Torah. I guess this year Simchat Torah was not
yeah, it wasn't the
as
same.
as sameach as it could be,
Hmm.
but. So at the end of Chag, usually there's a nice Farbrengen. Uh, I mean, Yud Tes Kislev is coming up, so the 19th of the month of Kislev, which is uh,
Hmm.
nicknamed Hasidic New Year. It is
Yeah.
the birthday of the Alter Rebbe, and it is a huge deal in Chabad. And so there better be a Farbrengen, and so yeah. When is Yotes Kislev?
Yeah, 18, Kislev 18. Yeah.
1933. It is going to be on a Shabbat, December 2nd.
Y como tiene así. Por eso,
So
pero pues, ahora sí que
there you
va a quedar
go.
hueco ahí. Sí,
Yeah,
por eso tiene más
Yotes. Apparently,
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna look out for that.
it's the day that
nomás aquí.
the great Maggid passed away,
Hmm.
Pero se va a ver, nomás de aquí,
and
como esta parte.
the Alter Rebbe got out of prison. Sorry,
Sí, a ver.
not a birthday. He went
Como
got
que
out
de
for being
¡Oh!
hey. Um,
That's the party that you told me about.
Yud Tes Kislev is always a party.
Yeah.
Um, Crown has apple flavor that is good with ginger ale. I am assuming Crown Royal is. I think they have a Heckscher on everything. Seagram's was for a long time uh, run by Orthodox Jews, so I think Seagram's. And I'm not sure if Crown Royal is a brand of Seagram's, but like a lot of
What needs an extra? The grain?
no. So most alcohol doesn't need a Heckscher because they're trying very hard to not have anything other than just the grain. It becomes a problem when you have flavored things. So, like normal vodka, you you really don't need a Heckscher. Common misconception: vodka is not kosher lepesach usually. Potato vodka is
I know,
kosher.
I remember this. Yeah, vodka was big in Tanya, and we used to use like one. It used to be like around Passover that we would use only one kind of vodka.
And
Big.
Slivovitz is Slivovitz during Pesach is a Hasidic tradition. It's
Mhm.
plum vodka or plum
Right.
wine or something,
Mhm.
and it's horrible.
Well,
Hey,
yeah, there's a Romanian drink, Tsuika, that's I think based on plum. It's called what? Tsuika. That's what.
Slivovitz.
It might be big with Satmel too. I don't know if the Satmel does Tsuika.
I don't know. Slivovitz is very. It's made with plums, often referred to as plum spirit or plum brandy.
Yeah, I think that's it. Might be. That's interesting.
So generally, so for example, most beers, you as including
Yeah.
microbrews, because they are trying so hard to keep any extra ingredients out, you generally don't have to worry in terms of being kosher. What
Hmm.
you do have to worry about is when they start flavoring things. Then you don't know which kind of flavors they're using, and so those flavors can sometimes not be kosher, especially when they say natural flavorings. Usually, natural flavorings involve some sort of insect. Uh, um, that's what else? Oh, and recently it has become fashionable to I can't say, I mean, halakhically I can't say it's a bad thing, but very few people actually paid attention to it until over the past 20 years it has become something people are very attentive to, which is if a Jew who is not religious owns a brewery, the brewer and the alcohol is chametz, such as wheat alcohol, which much of alcohol is
Hmm.
wheat. Then it becomes chametz she'avar alav pesach, and there is a rabbinic injunction that chametz she'avar alav pesach is um, is asur laolam. So it is as a sort of kanas, as a sort of penalty to
Hmm.
the owner who held on to his chametz during Pesach. There is a rabbinic injunction making it forbidden. Now, I mean, when I looked into it, all of the poskim were very seem to be very strict on this. It seems to me that if you don't know, you who you not being the person, like you're going and buying something, right? I don't see why you have a chiyuv, you have an obligation to go find out if this was the case from the original seller, especially like the manufacturer,
Here's
especially
the question. Here's the
since you're not
question
buying
here.
it directly. Yeah.
Why did you look deeply into this? Are you gonna open up a brewery or something?
No, but like, so
It was just a response that you were really interested in.
first of all, I love responsa. I love halachic responsa.
Mm-hmm.
Second, um, these types of discussions end up becoming like, especially regarding alcohol, the discussion over sherry casks, right? Whether you can whiskey that is so sherry casks is a whole other question.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether or not you're machmir or you're stringent on sherry casks or not, oftentimes becomes a topic of discussion in Orthodox circles because so you bring a nice bottle of whiskey and it was aged in sherry casks and everybody sits around and discusses whether or not it's kosher.
Yeah.
So this type of stuff can get fun. Um, on Shabbat, you will invariably end up with people discussing whether or not you can open a can of soda or not. Like
Mhm.
it just comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Orthodox Jewish chit chat.
It's an interesting space.
Insider baseball. I mean, anybody listening to this video, I'm guessing, like
It's
is
very-
here for the insider baseball. This is the insider baseball. Whether or not you can open up, whether or not you can have whiskey that was aged in sherry casks or not.
Yeah. Should we go to the heart of the matter? Should we?
To the heart of the matter, you're very excited about Lev of Tanya, the heart of Tanya. Do you want to read or should I read? Let me make this.
I can go for it
Go ahead.
unless you want to.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys can hear in the background. I have
Sounds like a Hispanic for breakfast.
So my bathroom hopefully will one of these days be finished. It's been a month. They told me 3 weeks, and while I was away, they were supposedly going to work on it. So I was like, okay, 1 week I don't have to worry about not having a bathroom because I live in a single apartment. So like, there's one bathroom. So
Yeah.
and they've been working on it for a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
You've
it's,
been holding on for.
yeah, I haven't been to the bathroom in a month.
So you haven't been. So you haven't needed to say nekavim, man. You
Funny enough, that bracha came up when I went. So Dr. Gary, I went and I got a bracha from Dr. Gary.
Right.
And
Psychiatrist.
yeah, and he almost passed away. So he almost passed away because he had a urinary blockage,
Mm-hmm.
and when they went, he was like, that would have been that he had to be hospitalized and stuff, and so when we were talking about brachot, like I talked to him about that bracha. Yeah. But no, I haven't been holding it. I have been availing myself of various bathrooms, and I got a gym membership, so I could go to 24-hour gym membership, so I could go take a shower.
Nice.
Yeah, working in a homeless shelter teaches you all kinds of tips and tricks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You would be surprised what percentage, it must be a small percentage, but what percentage of the homeless in Los Angeles live in their cars and have a gym membership?
Interesting. I haven't thought about that.
There are people who are like full-time employees at they're working and stuff, and They just live in their cars, and you would never know it. You
Yeah.
would never know it. Yeah,
Sounds like an LA thing.
it is an LA.
Yeah.
Okay, we should probably actually
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
Okay. So, והנה, על ידי קיום הדברים הנזכרים לעיל, להיות גופו נבזה ונמאס בעיניו, רק שמחתו תהיה שמחת הנפש לבדה. Acting on the advice mentioned above, to view one's body with scorn and contempt, and to find joy in the joy of the soul alone, הרי זו דרך ישרה וקלה, לבוא לידי קיום מצוות ואהבת לרעך כמוך לכל נפש מישראל מגדול ועד קטן. This advice is a direct and easy path towards fulfilling the mitzvah. You should love your fellow as yourself with regard to every Jew, both great and small. Interesting. I guess he's going to explain this. כי מאחר שגופו נמאס ומתועב אצלו, והנפש והרוח מי יודע גדולתן ומעלתן ושורשן ומקורן, באלוקים חיים. Since his body is despised and loathsome, he will not love himself on account of his body more than he loves his fellow. And as for the soul and spirit, the difference between his own soul and that of his fellow surely would not diminish the love between them, for who can know their greatness and excellence in their source and root, the living God? So,
You want to read that sentence?
how then can one claim that his soul is superior to his fellows?
Right? So, one of the things that he's saying is if you don't think of things in material terms and you recognize that we don't have a capacity to know spiritually how great or how lowly someone is, then you can you become less likely to be selfish. You will be more loving towards other people.
Interesting. So part of it, at least, is the fact that it's just when it's the material, it's more visible.
Right? I mean, if you're thinking of everything in material terms, right? You may, first of all, you become more involved in that which is physically your own, right? Whereas spiritually, your connection to others, right? You don't. One of the things that hopefully we have a capacity to understand, right? Especially when it comes to Israel, which shares a soul, the Yechidah, called Kolel Israel, Klal Israel, right? Mm-hmm. That which gathers Israel together, right? Then you are less likely to view yourself as just being inside your own skin, just who you are, and you have a greater capacity to connect and love everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense, yeah. ושגם שכולם מתאימות ואב אחד לכולנה. Furthermore, they are actually all equal, and not only equal yet separate, but furthermore, they all have one father, one source, and within that source they comprise one entity, the Yechidah, like you said. ולכן יקראו כל ישראל אחים, ממש, מצד שורש נפשם בהשם אחד. It is on account of the common root in one God that all of Israel are called brothers in the full sense of the word. רק שהגופים מחולקים. Only the bodies are distinct from each other. ולכן, העושים גופם עיקר ונפשם שפלה, אי אפשר להיות אהבה ואחווה אמיתית ביניהם, אלא התלויה בדבר לבדה. Therefore, there can be no true love and fraternity between those who regard their bodies as primary and their souls secondary, but only a love based on an external factor.
So this idea of ikar v'tafel, right?
Right.
What
Like secondary,
what
primary.
yeah, what is the actual thing itself? So for example, what bracha do you make on a chocolate covered strawberry?
And Mizonot.
Mezonot on a chocolate covered strawberry?
Ask me. I'm not in the blessing level yet.
Okay, so
Koltom-
strawberries are borei pri hadama,
Right.
and chocolate is shahakol niya bedvaro.
But yeah, you bless the essence of the meal. That
You bless
essence
each
of
thing. You bless that which is over. So if you're eating a chocolate covered strawberry, what bracha do you make?
is pri adama.
Maybe.
Okay, so we're thinking, what is the main thing that you're enjoying?
Aha, exactly. So are you eating the chocolate covered strawberry because you love chocolate, or because you love strawberries?
I see. This is more orthodox small talk. Yeah.
No, it actually, yes. So famously, apparently, back in the old days in Europe, when you went on a shidduch, you went on a date, and you met her father before you met her, of course. So the famous test was they would bring a bowl of fruit with all kinds of brachot and put it in front of you to see which one you would take and make a bracha, and then ask you why you did that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was apparently like a major halachic test for possible grooms.
Yeah,
but
I mean, yeah, I mean, I understand the strength in that because it really makes you think about the intention,
yeah,
the importance of what you're doing, what you're trying to do.
what are you doing? Are you eating a strawberry that is covered in chocolate, or are you eating chocolate that's being carried by a strawberry? Right? So same thing, ikar and tafel, by your heart, by your soul and your body. Are you a soul that is embodied, or are you a body that's animated by a soul?
And he says that the spiritual, the soul should be that connection. You should base.
Should be the ikar. You should be a soul that is embodied, not a body that is animated.
Very interesting. It kind of reminds me of this thing that's brewing in my mind right now. Like
we covered this in Pirkei Avot too, where it says a person who his fear of sin comes before wisdom, his wisdom will endure. The person that his wisdom becomes before his fear of sin, his wisdom will not endure. And it's the same pattern. It's like you want to have a connection that is not. The words that I have are rational and spiritual, like more so chokhmah in that term at least. I feel like it's more kind of like rational, utilitarian of this world, understanding of like how this is like when I'm thinking about if I belong to a religious community, I'm thinking I can think about this in terms of a utilitarian pros and cons, or I can think about it in terms of my duties, my responsibilities, my connection to God. And I think that verse too says that the ikar, the essential or the primary thing should be the connection. because that is much harder to sever or is impossible to sever.
Actually, I have to look at the more modern commentaries. Usually, I've studied Pirkei Avot with the three traditional commentaries are Maimonides, Rav Ovadia Mibar Tanura, and Rabbeinu Yonah. And all of those were pretty early on. And I'm wondering if the Hasidic commentaries talk about this idea of Chokhmah and Yirah in Kabbalistic terms or not. I can't. Yeah, it's because the question. Yeah, the question becomes, what does it mean for your Chokhmah to be Kodem, your Yirah, or the other way? The Pashat of that Mishnah is Pashat is that like it says Reshit Chokhmah Yirat Hashem, right?
Yeah.
That is the root of wisdom is fear of God. Is
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Okay. We should probably talk about Ahava Tului Bedavar and Shelo Tului Bedavar. That's also in Pirkei Avot. Have you guys gotten up to that?
Avat Li B'Dvar, I don't think so.
Okay. So there's lesser love, which is Tului Bedavar, and there's greater love, which is that's not Tului Bedavar.
Conditional, unconditional.
Yeah. So yeah, something that is conditional and unconditional is a good way of putting it, right? So he's saying that somebody who makes their body ikar, that person can only have an ahava that is physical and talui b'dvar, right? Whereas if you're a spiritual person, then you can have a greater love, which is not dependent on anything, which is not conditional.
Yeah. וזהו שאמר הלל הזקן על קיום מצווה זו, זהו כל התורה כולה, ואידך פירושה הוא. This explained Hillel the elder's statement concerning the fulfillment of this mitzvah. This is the entire Torah, the rest is about commentary. Referring to ואהבת לרעך כמוך. כי יסוד ושורש כל התורה הוא להגביה ולעלות על הנפש על הגוף מעלה מעלה עד עיקרה ושורשה דחל עלמין. For the basis and root purpose of the entire Torah is to elevate and exalt the soul high above the body to God, the source and root of all worlds. וגם להמשיך אור אינסוף, ברוך הוא בכנסת ישראל, כמו שהתבאר לקמן, דיינו, במקור נשמות כל ישראל, למאוי באחד באחד דווקא.
למהבי,
להביא.
to make be.
למהבי אחד באחד דווקא. And also to draw down the infinite light of the Ein Sof into the community of Israel, as will be explained further, meaning into the fountainhead of the souls of all Israel, so that the one God will reside within Israel, but only is insofar as they are one, united. I can see how this verse kind of like is, I can see the Rebbe really, because like the drawing down and everybody needs to have that, and like the reaching out so that everybody has that.
Yeah, I mean the Rebbe really, I mean, if there was one thing that almost every single one of his sichot ended on, was this nekuda of Ahavat Israel, right? That we have to have love for our fellow Jews and be united. Yeah.
ולא כשיש פירוד, חס ושלום בנשמות, דקודשא בריחו לא שרה באתר פגים.
Sharia ba'atar pegim.
שריה באתר פגים. But this indwelling of the light of the Ein Sof is impossible if there is disunity between the souls, God forbid, for God does not dwell in an imperfect, fragmented place. וכמו שאומרים, ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך. וכמו שנתבהר במקום אחר בבריחות, so do we say in our prayer, bless us our Father for all as one with the light of your countenance, as explained elsewhere at length. ומה שכתוב בגמרא, שמי שרואה בחברו שחטא מצווה לשנאותו, וגם לומר לרבו שישנאהו. היינו בחברו בתורה ומצוות. As for the Talmudic statement that if one sees his friend sinning, he should hate him, and also relate the fact to his teacher, so that he too will hate him, how does this confirm with what we said above? This applies only to one's companion in the study of Torah and the observance of mitzvot.
Yeah, let's read this note.
So the sinner in question is a Torah observant scholar, but has lapsed in this one instance. In this case, his sin is much more severe than usual, since it is written that even the inadvertent misdeeds of a scholar are as grave as deliberate sins. But even this general assumption of the gravity of his conduct is not sufficient cause to hate him. As the Alter Rebbe continues, yet another condition must first be satisfied. So he's going to propose this condition.
Yeah.
וכבר קיים בו מצוות תוכיח את עמיתך. הוכח תוכיח את עמיתך, אם שאיתך בתורה ובמצוות, ואף על פי כן לא שב בחטאו, כמו שכתוב בספר חרדים. He is also fulfilled with him, with the sinner, the injunction, you should repeatedly rebuke your friend. The word used here for your friend, Amitcha, also indicates, the Talmud says, he who is on par with you with the Torah and the mitzvot, who never...
people who are with you.
Yeah. He is on par with you in the Torah and the mitzvot, who nevertheless has not repented of his sin, as it is written in the Sefer Charadim. So it's not only that he has sinned, it is also that he is not repenting for it.
You're right, and he's been warned, and he understands, and so this is somebody that you have a connection with, and who is knowledgeable, and you have already explained to him why it is a sin, and he still continues with it, then maybe we should be talking about sinah, right?
Mm-hmm. I wonder if like the way that he uses sinah here is the same as the discussion that we had last time too about anger.
Mm-hmm.
Is you want to be able to you need charon af, like in terms of like you need to show this in order to for somebody to understand the gravity, the stakes of what they are doing.
So the word sinah is written with a sin. And one explanation that is given is that sin'ah is connected to shoneh, meaning to change, right? So you have a sin'ah for something or someone, in that you want them to change. Because chas v'shalom, to want something to be completely destroyed, right? It's asking. Obviously, God created everything for a reason, right? And you want it to be redeemed so that it fulfills the purpose for which God created it. So it's that type of sin'ah is very different from a hate that is destructive and obliterating.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to my friend. He used to work with autistic children, and he said that there is a method called ABA, I think, and
Sounds familiar.
and what he needed to do, which he hated, is that when he needed to shout, like if the autistic, I think it was child or person, would do something, then my friend had to be angry, visibly angry, to elicit a certain response from the autistic person, and this was hard for him to do. And his supervisor, he was still training, and his supervisor, well, they came up to him and told him, "Listen, you really need to like own it. You really need to be angry. You need to show this person because you need him to understand something or to respond in a certain way, so that something happens, so that he improves eventually."
Method acting.
Very much method acting. Yeah, I mean, being a therapist, I imagine it's a lot of that as well. And depending on how dynamic you are, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, this is one of the things that getting into therapy has been that too many people bring their own selves into therapy and don't realize that as a therapist, you're there for the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if that other person needs a certain method, there are various methodologies, right? And certainly it's fine for a counselor to adopt a particular methodology and find clients who prefer that methodology because that's their nature and that's good and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you are actually going to be successful with your clients, you need to tailor your methodology to your client, or at the very least be willing to realize that this is a client. So I had a professor, he was 85 years old, and the class he was teaching, he knew absolutely nothing about. But he would say, anybody have questions on the material? And as soon as a student said they had a question, he would say, let's role play that. Role play what? Nobody knows. And then he would proceed to like psychoanalyze the person in such an amazingly skillful way. Like he was really, really, really good. Mm-hmm. I learned so much in that class. And then afterwards, when people would ask him like why he did certain things, he had no clue. Absolutely no clue. It was completely a procedural knowledge of how to be a good therapist, which I'm glad they hired him. Like he wasn't actually conveying any of the material from the class.
Right.
But he actually, I think he taught me more than anything, right?
Yeah, just from watching him interact and do.
Yeah, he was amazingly good. He was amazingly good. So what reminded me of this, like he would, I remember like he would talk to some people very kindly and just drawing them out. And then with other people, he would be really confrontational. And I just remember this one time that there were these students who would like keep on asking him, well, why'd you do X? Why'd you do Y? Why'd you do Z? And he would give some BS answer. that was like, yeah, no, that's not what happened. You were just recognizing that this person needs this in this thing, and it was so instinctual that he had no idea. Like it was kind of funny. But I almost wish like I had downloaded the videos of that class and kept them because they're really good. But I don't think that would have been fair to the students. I mean, twice he did that to me. It took me hours to process like how he cut through me. He was so skillful.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to Tanya.
Back to Tanya. אבל מי שאינו חברו ואינו מקורב אצלו, but as to the one that is not his companion or is not his equal, not in intimate terms with him,
you can read them.
Should I read that? Is equal in the Torah and the mitzvot, so that our sages say concerning the ignorant in general, even his deliberate transgressions are regarded as inadvertent acts, since he is unaware of the gravity of his sin, nor is he on intimate terms with him. Not only is one not enjoined to hate him, on the contrary, he must in fact strive to become closer to him, as the Alter Rebbe states shortly. Right. הנה על זה אמר הלל הזקן, יהיה מתלמידיו של אהרון, אוהב שלום וכולי, אוהב שלום, אוהב את הבריות ובקרבן לתורה. Therefore, on the contrary of this situation, Hillel said, be one of the disciples of Aaron, loving peace and pursuing peace, loving creatures, and drawing them near to the Torah. לומר שאף הרחוקים מתורת השם ועבודתו, לכן נקראים בשם בריות בעלמא. צריך למשכן בחבלי אבותות אהבה. This usage of the term creatures, in referring to human beings, means that even those who are far from God's Torah and his servants, for which reason they are classified simply as creatures, indicating that the fact that they are God's creations in their sole virtue, even those one must attract with strong cords of love. וכולי היי, ואולי יוכל לקרבן לתורה ועבודת השם. What's high?
High, with all this, וכולי high. This is Aramaic.
Yeah. ואולי יוכל לקרבן לתורה ועבודת השם. Perhaps thereby one will be able, after all, to draw them close to the Torah and the service of God. ואין לו, לא הפסיד שכר מצוות אהבת רעים. And even if you fail, he has not forfeited the merit of the mitzvah of neighborly love. Interesting. וכמה מקורבים אליו והוכיחם ולא שבו מעוונותיהם, שמצווה לשנאותם, מצווה לאהבם גם כן. Furthermore, even those whom one is enjoined to,
Happy, stop it.
For they are close to him and he has rebuked them, but they still have not repented of their sins, one is obliged to love them too. So he asked, how can you love and hate at the same time? ושתיהן אין אמת, שנאה מצד הרע שבהם, ואהבה מצד בחינת הטוב הגנוז שבהם, שהוא ניצוץ אלוקות שבתוכם המחיה נפשם האלוקית. And both the love and the hatred are truthful emotions, since the hatred is an account of the evil, or directed to the evil, on the account of the evil within them, while the love is on account of the good hidden in them, which is a divine spark within them that animates their divine soul. Yeah, I mean, so this is like
love the sinner, hate the sinner.
Yeah. But as we connect it to modern psychology, I mean, this is very much a basic concept, basic in modern psychology, of like rewards and stuff like that. I remember talking to my wife about that. וגם לעורר רחמים בליבו עליה, כי היא בבחינת גלות בתוך הרע, מסיטרא אחרא הגובר עליה ברשעים. One must also arouse compassion on the divine soul of the sinner, for in the case of the wicked, it is in exile within the evil of the sitra achra, which dominates it. והרחמנות מבטל את השנאה ומעורר את האהבה, כנודע ממה שכתוב ליעקב אשר פדה את אברהם. Compassion banishes hatred and arouses love, as is known from the verse, Jacob who redeemed Abraham.
Right. So Abraham is Ish HaChesed, right? Is embodiment of Chesed.
So why does it say? Maybe explains it here.
Jacob. So Rahmanut, yeah, Rahmanut is a midah of Yaakov Avinu, and Ahava is a midah of Chesed, of Abraham.
I thought that Yaakov is Tiferet.
Correct. Tiferet is beauty, but beauty and Rahmanut, compassion is a combination of Chesed and Din.
Chesed and Din. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Right, and Tiferet is a combination of Chesed and Din.
And then maybe one day you can explain to me why Keter has the 13 attributes of mercy. How is that? Why is Keter related to the
Keter is above.
I know
the
it's
Partsufi.
So
Right. So like we said, it's 9, not 10. It's it's 10, not 9, 10, not 11.
Yeah.
Right. So between Keter, Dat, and Malchut, in any Partsuf, usually you only show 2 out of 3. And the fact is, generally, you either show Malchut or Keter. Sometimes you don't show Dat, but oftentimes you only show Keter and Malchut, right? So Keter is the connection to that which is above. So when we talk about the Yud Gimel Midot, right? The Yud Gimel Midot, the 13 attributes, they go above and beyond. That's why we they're considered Devarim Sheba Kedusha, and you only say them in an inyan, right? Because they go above and beyond, right?
But they are also connected to mercy, to Rachamim, which we just associate with Tiferet.
Well, yeah. I don't know what to tell you. You're going above my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm poking because I don't know. I'm just trying to find out.
Yeah. Yud Gimel Midot.
I'm reading. I'm reading the Kabbalah.
Kabbalah of forgiveness. Well, I'll tell you what. Apparently, Rabbi Breitowitz a few days ago did his 39th shiur on Tomer Devorah. I'm guessing if you get through the 39 shiurim, you will know far more about the Yud Gimel Midot than I do.
Yeah.
You are running that book club, so it's only what? It's only 40 hours of Rabbi Breitowitz.
Breitowitz just talking about and
Breitowitz should be easy.
He connects.
Yeah, things. you can listen to Rabbi Bradowitz at 2 times speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
Yeah. No, I don't do that. I can't. That's, at 2 times speed, it kills me, really.
Fractal holographic structure. Things appear on multiple levels. With mercy, Tiferet, Keter, maybe. I mean, frankly, I think so. Rahmanut. I mean,
I had that same sense too of what he's saying. So yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Weiter.
No, weiter.
Do you wanna get the Sfirot out of the way?
Oh, I forgot that I had the Sfirot in the way.
Okay, I can't read through them yet. Velo, can you show the top just so I can remember what we were talking about, right? Asher pada et Avraham, right? So I said that. ולא אמר דוד המלך עליו השלום, תכלית שנאה ששנאתים וכו'.
Senetim. I hated them with the greatest of hatred.
Right. אלא על המינים והאפיקורסים שאין להם חלק באלוהי ישראל. As for the statement by King David, peace upon him, I hate them with a consummate hatred, reserving no love whatsoever. This refers only to Jewish heretics and atheists who have no part in the God of Israel.
Yeah. And generally, in order to be a mean or an apikoros, you have to be a great Talmid Chacham. So that's not anything most of us have to worry about.
Right? Are you gonna tell the anecdote about the guy that argues that this rabbi hears there's a great apikoros in town, so he says, okay, come to dinner and let's talk about stuff. So I don't remember this exactly, but the apikoros comes to dinner with this rabbi, and the rabbi starts asking him, so in the Talmud and this, what do you think about what it says there? And the apikoros says, I don't know, I have no idea. I don't read that kind of stuff. I don't apikoros. And so the rabbi says, okay, but what about Rashi says here about this and this and that? He says, no, I don't read Rashi. I'm an epikoros. So then he tells, okay, but what about if you read Tomer Dvorah, do you know anything about that? And he says, no, I'm telling you, I don't read no Talmud, no Rashi, no Chumash, nothing. I don't read those. I'm an epikoros. So the rabbi says, you're not an epikoros, you're an ignoramus. You don't know anything.
Right. Yeah. There's a story. I also don't remember this exactly, but there's a story about there was a famous apikoros in some town, and somebody comes there and I think he asks where should I go and study, or who can I go and study by, and I think they told him, oh, you should go talk to the great apikoros. And he goes and he sees this guy is sitting and learning Torah all day. And he's like, why do they call you the great apikoros? Mm-hmm. He says, because I'm trying very hard to reach to a level so I could be an apikoros.
Right. So you need to know what you're talking about. You need to know in order to be even able to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's or you can find that.
So was the heart of Tanya everything you were hoping it would be?
I think it was very. It was heartful. If that's even a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it touches on the main thing, kind of like in the middle of it. Talks about these two really important movements, love and the love especially, and the richuk and the hate. So yeah, pumping in and the pumping out.
So we go back to chapter 33. I think somebody once told me the reason there seems to be a break is that specifically the Alter Rebbe wanted chapter 32 to be, so he kind of takes a break and he inserts a treatise about love in the center of time.
Mhm.
Okay. עוד זאת תהיה שמחת הנפש האמיתית, ובפרט כשרואה בנפשו בעיתים מזומנים, שצריך לזככה ולהאירה בשמחת לבב. Yet another means of leading one's soul to true joy, especially at those specific times, when one finds it necessary to purify his soul and illuminate it with a gladness of heart, אזי יעמיק מחשבתו ויצייר בשכלו ובינתו עניין ייחודו מתברך האמיתית. Right? He can awaken a love and joy in God, right? A true joy through thinking specifically about God's unity.
Mhm.
איך הוא ממלא כל העלמין, עליונים ותחתונים, how he fills the entire world, above and below, ואפילו מלוא כל הארץ הלזו הוא כבודו יתברך, right? And even this lowly world, right, is filled with his glory. וכלה כמי כלחשב ממש, right? And everything is as nothing before him, truly. והוא לבדו הוא בעליונים ותחתונים ממש, כמו שהיה לבדו קודם ששת ימי הבראשית, right? That really only God himself exists, just as only he existed before he created anything. וגם במקום הזה, שנברא בו עולם הזה, השמיים והארץ וחוץ לעם, היה הוא לבדו ממלא hamakom hazeh. And even this place that is now seemingly filled with the heavens and the earth and all that fills them, right? All their hosts, right? He was here, and like we discussed in Bati Lagani, he will again be revealed even with a greater set, even more clearly, once we reach completion, right, of Bria. V'gam atachet, and even now it's actually so. Hu levado bli shum shinui klal. He is alone without any sort of change. Mipnei shekol hanebiim. מפני שכל הנבראים, because all of the things that have been created, בטלים אצלו במציאות ממש. They are all as nothing, truly, because he is the Ikar and they are Tafel. They're like nothing.
So what is this? Okay.
What?
He's giving a metaphor.
כביטול אותיות הדיבור והמחשבה במקורן ושורשן, הוא מהות הנפש ועצמותה, שהן 10 בחינותיה, חוכמה, בינה ודעת. So,
Right.
just as the letters of speech and thought are nullified within their source and root, the sole substance of essence, so any word you say, right, in its very shorish, right, before it has been manifested into words, right, that is the actual essence, right? the thought itself. When you express it in words, right? The words are only are batel to the thought itself. שאין בהן בחינת אותיות עדיין קודם שמתלבשות שוט בלבוש המחשבה, כמו שנתבאר בפרקים כ' וכ"א באריכות עיין שם. Right?
You mean they're collapsed? The words collapse into the category into the category that is above them.
No, so you have a thought, right? Before you can express the thought, right? Before it has actually become, it has an actual existence, right? It's actually something, right? Something you have in your mind and you can't actually express it into words, right? When you do express it into words, the words themselves are just expressions of that thought which existed before you had a way of expressing the thought.
Right.
Right? The expression is just something that exists in order for you to communicate the thought. It doesn't have the essential character and importance of the thought itself.
So so this is the strawberry and the chocolate.
Yes, kind of. I would say it's more like the word strawberry and an actual strawberry, right? So when you say strawberry, right, you have a certain idea of strawberry and you're communicating that by saying strawberry. But the actual strawberry, it exists without, like, if you use a different word for it, or it has an essential nature, right? It has a reality that is beyond words, right? And similarly, God has a reality that is beyond creation. Creation is just a kind of expression of God's desire.
It's like the Hevel Piv, or like
right.
The words, right? Yeah.
Right. We're trying to understand God through analogies. And the analogies at some level ultimately have to fail because we're trying to understand God. But at the very least, we can understand. So like we talked about earlier, right? If I say Ben, or you say Jacob, right?
Jacob.
That's your name, right? But like that name is completely nothing in comparison to actually Ben, right? Ben, the real person, right? So similarly, the world is completely like nullified to God himself. And the analogy he gives is an idea and the expression of the idea in words, right? The idea itself has a reality to it that is beyond how you express it in words.
Right. Okay.
וכמו שנתבאר גם כן במקום האחר משל גשמי לזה. And sometimes there's a physical phenomenon that can illustrate this. מעניין ביטול זיו ואור השמש במקורו הוא גוף כדור השמש שברקיע. So this isn't another analogy that's given, right? You have the sun, and then you have the light that comes out of the sun. When the light is in the sun itself, it is part of the sun. And when it emanates out of the sun, right, it appears to be something of its own, but it's really just an expression of the sun.
Right.
שגם שם מאיר ומתפשט ודאי זיוו ואורו, right? So inside the sun itself, there must be some, like the light must have an existence. וביתר שאת מהתפשטותו והרתו בחלל העולם, and that must in some sense be greater than before it, greater than after it comes into the world. אלא ששם הוא בטל במציאות במקורו וכאילו אינו במציאות כלל. But a light in the candle, so here they give, this will be better understood in terms of the saying of what good is a candle in the daylight. Naturally, the candle is no less luminous by day than by night, but because of its light is overwhelmed by the far greater brightness of daylight, it no longer fulfills its function of illumination. At this point, it ceases to exist as a luminary. The same is true of the sun's rays as they are within the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an explanatory note, which hopefully helps understand better.
Yeah.
The kacha mamash, and that is really how it is. Derech mashal, as an allegory. Hu bitul ha'olam umlo'o be'metziut legabe mekoro, shehu or ein sof baruch hu, kamo shenitbarer sham ba'arichut, as explained there. That is how we can understand how the world is nullified before God Himself. והנה כשיעמיק בזה הרבה, ישמח ליבו ותגל לנפשו אף גילת ורנן בכל לב ונפש ומאוד באמונה זו. When he thinks about this, he will become very happy, rejoice with this faith. His soul will be gladdened by it to the point of rejoicing and singing with all his heart, soul, and mind. I don't know if I've ever reached that type of simcha. Ki rabahi ki kirbat Elokim mamash, because it is great, because it is truly being close to God. V'zeh kol ha'adam tachlit brioto, and this is the whole purpose of man and the reason for his creation. Uvriat kol ha'olamim elyonim v'tachtonim, and the creation of all of the worlds above and below. Lihyot lo dira zo v'tachtonim kamo she'yitbarer lekaman ba'arichut, so that God has a dwelling place in the lower regions, as will be explained at length. Right? This is one of the ways in which we express the reason for creation, is that God, Ratzak Baruch Hu, dira betachtonim, right?
So the only difference, though, that he didn't explicitly say here, unless I missed it, is that isn't there a difference between when I express words, or when we talk in this world in terms of yesh mi'ayin, those creations, those are something that are like separate, or is this not connected? They are separate from yourself. They become separate than you, as opposed to God that needs to revivify. He needs to be connected to creation always. So he's not.
So yesh mi yesh, right? If I were to create something, right? Because I am taking something and turning it into something else, right? Yesh mi yesh, it's possible for that thing to even exist after I make it, right? I sit down and I write something on a piece of paper, or I make a piece of pottery, right? Yesh mi yesh, right? I take some clay and I turn it into a piece of pottery. The pottery will retain its form even once I'm done with it. But yesh mi'ayin, since it is something that needs to be brought into existence, right? Then it has no capacity to continue to exist without its creator. I don't know why you brought this up.
I guess it just sounded, because when he was talking about how everything is within
Oh, right. Everything is
Yes.
batel to
Batel,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we are talking about yesh ma'ayin, correct? Yes.
Okay.
והנה כמה גדולה שמחת הדיוט ושפל אנשים בהתקרבותו למלך בשר ודם המתאחסן ודר איתו עמו בביתו. How great is the joy of a common and lowly person when he is brought close to a king of flesh and blood, who furthermore lodges and greater still dwells together with him, not in the king's palace, but in his own the commoner's home, right? Imagine that some great person comes and visits you and stays by your house, right? You're like, hey, nice,
Welcome.
right? In a similar manner, right? When we feel closeness to God, we should feel that sort of simcha. וקל וחומר לאין קץ לקרבת ודירת מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. How much more so when it comes to God. דכתיב כי מי הוא זה אשר ערב ליבו לגשת אליי נאום השם. So it is written, for who is the man who dares approach me, says God. Yet in one's awareness of God's unity and through self-nullification before him, one does come near to God. Furthermore, God thereby dwells with him and within him. ועל זה תקנו ליתן שבח והודיה לשמו יתברך בכל בוקר לאמור אשרינו מה טוב חלקנו וכולו ומה יפה ירושתנו. And that's why in the prayers we say every day, right? How great is our fortune and how beautiful our inheritance. כלומר, this is it. כמו כשאדם שש ושמח בירושה שנפלה לו הון עתק שלא עמל בו. Just as a person is very happy to inherit something that he didn't work for himself. כן ויותר מכן, similarly and even more so, מכל לאין קץ, infinitely so, יש לנו לשמוח על ירושתנו שהנחילונו אבותינו. We should rejoice at this Yerusha, this inheritance we have gotten from our forefathers. הוא ייחוד השם האמיתי, אשר אפילו בארץ מתחת אין עוד מלבדו, וזוהי דירתו בתחתונים. This inheritance is the true unity of God, that even here below on earth, there's nothing else beside him alone. And this is his abode among the lowly beings. I'm not sure what this has to do with being a nachala of Avotenu.
An inheritance?
Yeah. Our own unaided efforts would never win for us the ability to experience God's unity. It is our inheritance from our forefathers.
Right. It's not our efforts. This actually might be related to Parasha, where like in terms of like why do we circumcise at 8 days?
Mm-hmm.
Why not do it like the Muslims? I think they do it on at age 13, and the idea is that this is not a rational decision that you want even though at 13 the child enters into the covenant, like he can understand it better. It's all true, but the point is that this is not a rational decision that the child is making. This is a covenant that he inherits. Something
right.
Like
that. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Justin, but I can't read Greek, so I have no idea what you're saying.
Something with X.
וזהו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, תרי"ג מצוות ניתנו לישראל, בא חבקוק והעמידן על אחת, שנאמר וצדיק באמונתו יחיה. And this is what our rabbis taught, that there are 613 mitzvot, but Habakkuk brought all of them together into the passage, a righteous man lives by faith. כלומר, כאילו אינה רק מצווה אחת, היא האמונה לבדה. As if that all of the mitzvot are just one mitzvah, which is faith. כי על ידי האמונה לבדה יבוא לקיום כל התרי"ג מצוות. Almost sounds a tiny bit Lutheran, but the fact is, so there's a famous machloket between the Rambam and the Ramban, Maimonides and Nachmanides. And
I was about to mention it, so I guess I had a good thought.
Oh, you were thinking about that too? So you tell it.
No, you tell.
So if I remember correctly, Maimonides counts Hamanat Elokut, to believe in God, as one of the 613 mitzvot.
Yeah.
And Nachmanides does not. Why? Obviously, there's a mitzvah to believe in God. Because he said you cannot have a mitzvah to believe in God. You cannot have a commandment. All of the other commandments are extensions of this mitzvah. Right?
Or extension of that, not as a mitzvah.
Right, because first you have to believe that there is someone who commands, and then you can actually have commandments.
Right.
Similarly, why do we make brachot even on mitzvot the Rabbanan? Right? When we wash our hands before eating, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Oh, this is a takana of the prophet Daniel, right? And later was instituted by the rabbis that even outside the temple, before we eat, we wash our hands to remember the temple, right? How do we make the blessing? Blessed are you, Lord God of the universe, who sanctified us in his commandments and commanded us to wash our hands. He didn't directly command us, right? Mm-hmm. But why do we do the things of the rabbis? Because it is commanded in the Torah, right? Kol asher yagidu lacha, everything that they shall command tell you, right? So it's extensions of, but ultimately everything goes back to, I am a servant of God. There is a God in the world. He is the king of the world, and my whole everything I do should be as an extension of his will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dahainu, that is to say, כשיהיה ליבו שש ושמח באמונתו בייחוד השם בתכלית השמחה. Right? When he is so happy that there is one God in full joy. כאילו לא הייתה עליו רק מצווה זו לבדה. As if that was the only mitzvah. והיא לבדה תכלית בריאותו ובריאת כל העולמות. And that is the purpose of his being created and the creation of the entire world. הרי בכוח וחיות נפשו בשמחה רבה זו. Right? If that animates him, right, in this idea, התעלה נפשו למעלה מעלה על כל המונעים קיום כל התרי"ג מצוות מבית ומחוץ. Right? That will, in a his soul will soar above all obstacles hindering his fulfillment of the mitzvot, both from within and from without. וזהו שאמר באמונתו יחיה, and that's what it means. It says he shall live by his faith. יחיה daika, he shall live specifically. כתחיית המתים, right? Like resurrection of the dead, דרך משל, as an allegory. כך תחיה נפשו בשמחה רבה זו, right? It will animate, right? And emunah will animate, give life to the tzaddik. Vehi simcha kefula umechupelet, and this is a doubled and redoubled joy. Ki milvad simchat hanefesh hamaskelet bekirvat Hashem v'dirato ito imo. Right? Not only is he having the joy of apprehending God is how near God is to him and how God is with him. Od zot yismach bekiflayim besimchat Hashem begodel nachat ruach lefanav yitbarach be'emunah zu. He will also rejoice doubly in the joy and pleasure which his faith brings to God. So one, you realize, God is truly with me. And the second is that there will be a joy in a faith that brings to God.
The faith that what
which
you're
his
doing
faith
joy.
brings to God. Yeah, why? I mean, if you truly understand, right? So you should be happy. Okay, I think I understand. So you're happy that God is here, but you will be doubly happy in knowing that this is something which gives God joy. Right? It gives God, pleasure. Lasot nachat ruach leyotzreinu. Right? So just as you become happy knowing that this is something that God wants.
Yeah.
The itkafia sitra achra mamash veithapech chashcha lenahora. Right? That the other side, the Sitra Achra, has been subdued and darkness has been transformed to light. Shehu choshech haklipot sheba'olam hazeh hachumri hamachshichin umechasin al oro yitbarach. Right? So that is the darkness of the husks, right? Which hide God's God from us and God's light from us. Ad et ketz, until the end of days. Kamosh katuv ketz sam lachoshech, like it says, he sets an end to the darkness. The hainu ketz hayamim sheya'avir ruach hatuma min haaretz v'nigla kavod Hashem v'ra'u kol basar yachtav v'komo she'yitparer lakama. Like he's going to explain above that at the end of days, God's glory will be completely revealed, and all flesh will be able to see God's, will behold it. Yeah. U'ifrat b'chutz la'aretz she'avir eretz ha'amim tameh u'maleh klipot v'sitra achra. Especially out chutz la'aretz, right, outside of the land of Israel. That the atmosphere is unclean and is filled with klipot and sitra achra. Ve'ein simcha lefanav yitbarach ke'ora v'simcha be'yitron or haba min hachoshech daika. And there's no greater joy for God than transforming darkness into light, right? Because Yitron ha'or min ha'choshen. Right?
Mhm.
That it is even greater when it comes from the darkness. V'zehu shekatuv yismach Israel ba'osav. This is the meaning of what it says, that let Israel rejoice in its maker. Note that it's expression maker, not creator or the like.
Why do I need to note that?
I think it's yeah. I think he explains here. Perish. Shekol mi shahu mizera Israel. Yesh lo lismoach besimchat Hashem asher sas besameach bedirato betachtonim shehen bechinat asiya gashmiit mamash. Right? So there is a special joy that comes from the fact that in this lowly world, right, in this material world, God's spirituality gets in the world of action, right? You actually make this lowly world a place for the Tachtoni.
Yeah.
וזהו שכתוב בעושיו לשון רבים. And that's what it means when it says in their creator. In its maker.
Makers.
Why use, in its maker. Oh, osav.
So I think is he let me I can try to guess. Is he is saying that this is he's saying that the makers are the people that are making the Israel that is rejoice in what we are doing for God.
Be'osav, no. So okay. So
Okay.
listen to the Hebrew, right? If I said Yismach Israel be'oso, right? It would seem that I am talking about God who creates oto, right? Ose oto.
Yeah.
But it's Yismach Israel be'osim oto. In that they are doing it.
Right.
So
they refer to Israel?
Right. What is the ose? It's not. It's maker, right? You would think that it is talking about God, but it talks about in the plural, and obviously this is not the pashut shot of the verse, but hopefully you can hear me over the.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Yeah, but he's teaching it to be osav, right? It's the doers, right?
Is Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting.
It's an interesting twist.
What?
Interesting twist.
Yeah. שהוא עולם הזה הגשמי המלא קליפות וסתרה אחרא שנקרא רשות הרבים וטורי דפרודה. Right? So this plural expression, makers, refers to our physical world that is filled with klipot and sitra achra, which are called Reshut Harabim, a public domain, and mountains of separation. Right. Aha.
Okay, so it's a little different than what we thought, but it's still.
The osav. Interesting.
So this is like raining. This is kind of like what your rabbi told you about the horse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're taking the horse and you're. If we finish. Oh, this is the end. This is a good place for me to explain to Justin what he was asking me. Let's finish this. והתהפכן לנהורה ונעשין רשות היחיד לייחודו יתברך ואמונה זו. Right? So you turn this darkness into light through taking that which is Reshut Harabim, right? Which is that which belongs to the many and bringing it into one.
And this has something to do with Eruvin.
Has something to do with
Eruvin.
Eruvin, right? So Justin, I hope he's still listening, was asking about the Eruv, and anybody
I just made it up. I didn't know this was what it was about.
really?
Yeah.
Oh no, he mentioned it on the Discord as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, it's just reminded me of Eruvin. So.
Right. When you talk about Reshut HaRabim and Reshut HaYachid, obviously somebody who, like, it is a halachic term that usually refers to Eruvin.
Mm-hmm.
What is an Eruv? So if you want a funny introduction to it, Comedy Central a while back did a kind of interesting and funny introduction to how an Eruv caused some controversy in a community. So what is an Eruv? An Eruv is a legal fiction. What's the legal fiction? So there are 39 classes of creative work which a Jew is prohibited to do on the Sabbath. And one of these classes of prohibited work usually gets translated as carrying, hotza'ah. Probably better it's transferring, right? So the first Mishnah in Shabbat talks about the 4 types of hotza'ah, which is if you are standing inside your house and there's a beggar outside, and you take a piece of bread from your house and you put it into the hand of the beggar outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
This bread moves from being something inside your house to being something that's out in the world. Okay?
Yeah.
So this transfer, this change in legal status is considered a creative type of work. Okay? And because it is such a spiritual concept, it is something that is like, does it physically change? No, it doesn't physically change. So you might think that it's not actually a type of creation. But the Torah teaches us, no, this is actually a type of creation, to transfer something from one status to another, right? To make something into something else. This was my piece of bread, and now it's somebody else's piece of bread. Okay? So how does this refute the Trinity? Because we have throughout the Torah this idea of Reshut HaYachid and Reshut HaRabim. We have this concept of the one and the many, right? The concept of the one and the many is throughout the Hebrew Bible, right? The famous verse in Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, says, Lo yechlu mayim rabim lo yochlu lachabot et ha'ava. The waters of the many, right? Mayim rabim,
right?
The waters of the many, and this idea of rabim, right, cannot quench love. This idea of rabim versus, so one and the many is actually philosophically, if you also look in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, you'll see the problem of the one and the many is one of the basic problems of psychology. of philosophy. And if you follow the work of John Vervaeke, you will see that the problem of the one and the many is one of the very most basic problems of cognitive science, right?
Mhm.
To how a artificial intelligence comes to understand that this is a part of this and not a part of that.
Yep.
Right? So what we do when we create this legal fiction of an eruv, and eruv creates it literally means a combination. It creates a situation where everyone who is inside the boundaries of the eruv is connected one to the other, right? And it is one community. So if you live across the street from me and there's an eruv, I can take a piece of bread from my house and
Mhm.
bring it over to your house and we can eat together, right? That we are creating a connection, a oneness between us, right? Which which makes it all be one, all of us one, right?
Yeah.
So there's no longer hotza'ah, there's no longer this creative work of transference. And this is something like throughout the Torah, you see the importance of yichud, of unification. And that's why we say Hashem is one, the ein sheni, there is no other, right?
Mhm.
And there's, it actually also goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that kula kameh kala chashiv, right? That all of creation before God is as if it never existed. So the hypostases that God creates are not even hypostases of God, even things which are expressions of God, right? They are Rabim, they are the many, they are not God Himself. So it
Right.
this negates the Trinity in two ways. First, the whole idea of three in one is anti-biblical and doesn't follow from what the Bible itself talks about, which is the one and the many. And in philosophy, it's the one and the many. So why did Christians pick one and three? Because they're mistaken. They don't have this idea of the one and the many. And the second problem is they think of the hypostases of God, they think of the expression of God as God Himself, which is what makes them particularly idolaters. Because it is only God Himself in His essence who is actually God and actually exists, right? So the one is the reality, the many is not. The many is creation. The this being different from that, right? All of it is actually one.
Mhm.
I mean, I hope that was clear for me. It's very clear how this idea, both on Shabbat, of creating an eruv, creating a connection which of oneness and unity in the community, is an act which negates the need for creation, really, and makes it so on Shabbat we are one together and we no longer need to do the creative act of moving, transferring things from one place to another. And second, helps us understand how the Sitra Achra and right, we said Roshut Harabim and Turei,
Mhm.
like ultimately all of this is Klipa and Sitra Achra, right? Because it is not like God Himself. So the hypostases of God, which the Christians make the mistake of saying that the hypostases can also be considered God, it's just a pure mistake. I mean, I hope I was clear. Did that make any sense to you?
I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. I mean, to me, I understand. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the counterclaims to the Trinity, but I mean, even listening to, I just listened to Peugeot talking about in the Ark. We had his little talk. He was basically saying what you were saying.
Really?
Not focus on the
Oh yeah, God the ineffable.
good,
Yeah,
and not mistake any smaller good for that. Always aim to the ineffable.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. So, yeah, Justin, not sure what you're saying. I mean, yeah. We got 20 more minutes. I could actually text. I'm gonna text Justin the thing if he wants to come on. Where's Justin? There's Justin. But or we can talk about whatever, or we could end early. Frankly, that wouldn't be bad either. Or we could talk about why sherry casks are kosher or not.
how was what did you do at Yosef's? You dinner? What was going on?
I actually stayed at his house. He made pizza from scratch.
What does scratch mean? Okay, so walk me through scratch. Like, I've made pizza in the past. I don't know if I've made it from scratch.
He actually grew the wheat himself now.
Okay, so
But he made it with he actually made the dough from flour.
Okay.
Yeah. So he made the dough from flour and
Nice.
I mean, he doesn't make things from scratch the way Sherry makes things from scratch, which is she grows her own grass,
Right.
which she feeds to her own sheep, which is where she gets the wool.
It's on another level.
Every expression of God is a hypostasis, and the interesting thing is when Father Stephen came on one of my Bible studies, somebody asked him, "Is the Father also a hypostasis?" And he said yes, which I wasn't expecting him to say. But apparently, yeah. Also, the Trinity isn't the one and the many. There are. I highly recommend you speak to some of the many of the Trinitarians in this little corner, because they often bring up the one and the many as, and frankly, the one and the many is the strongest idea that that can explain how somebody could fall into the idolatry of the Trinity. Justin's also working. He's and some he has to actually feed his family. What is a hypostasis? Ooh, okay. So this is a cup. This is also a cup, right? So there's an idea of cup, which can be instantiated in many different things, which are an example of cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a cup and this is a cup. Or I'm sitting on a chair and you're sitting on a chair, right? And so a hypostasis is a particular instantiation. Fraud says this is not a pipe. is an instantiation of an ideal. And so we would say that anything that is called godly can be considered a sort of hypostasis, in that it is an expression of God and godliness in the world. But we would say that every reference to God, right? Every reference to God is hypostatic and therefore fails to be God, whereas Christians have this idea of three particular hypostases of God, where canonically the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which somehow are like God Himself. I have to say, ultimately, I think the Trinity is a way of moving Christians from complete polytheism and idolatry towards a greater truth, right? Like I always say, three gods is a step up from what the Greeks used to believe, right? Hopefully, they went from like thousands and millions of gods down to three. Eventually, I'm hoping they'll make it all the way down to one. It's a step up.
Mm-hmm.
Christianity refining and purifying the world. They went down from many, many gods to three. Baruch Hashem.
Hey, I'm grateful for the current. Now more than ever, I'm very grateful for the current state of Christianity in the world. So,
It's interesting. I was listening to a conversation that PVK had a little while ago on Luke's channel, and there were lots of people, Yosef and Sam and stuff there. And PVK, I'm sure he didn't realize that this is an anti-Semitic trope, but he asked the question. You would think that the Jews would ask, why do people hate us so, right? And the Christian answer to that is generally because we rejected Jesus. The real answer to that is because a Jew created Christianity, right? In China, we didn't have these problems, right? Anti-Semitism doesn't exist in India. Anti-Semitism is a result of the fact that Christians come from Judaism, and that's why. When people ask the question, why have Jews been thrown out of so many countries? The answer is, well, let's look at the Tzad HaShaveh. Let's look at what is the difference between all of those countries and the countries that did not throw out the Jews, which is all the countries that threw out the Jews were Muslim or Christian. In India and in China, we didn't have these problems.
interesting. Is this like the Tanya says, where if somebody is close to you, then maybe you
have a greater capacity of hatred and
mm-hmm.
yeah. I remember the first time. So Father Eric, when he was a deacon, he gave a link to watch him say the homily, right, at a church. It was like his first time.
Yeah.
So I went and I watched, and I was shocked to hear him reading about the apostles hiding in a locked room in the Gospel of John for fear of the Jews. Now, I don't think Father Stephen in any way Father Eric, in any way meant to perpetuate anti-Semitism. But I realized, oh my God, like there are children, like I never realized that when I say to a child, I'm Jewish, like they might have just come from a church where the apostles were hiding from the Jews, and here I am calling myself a boogeyman, right? Right? And like you can tell me about how that child is misunderstanding and the apostles themselves were Jews and it was the Jewish leaders and all that, right? But when it comes down to it, from a very young age, in ways that just doesn't really happen in Judaism. I mean, it does to some extent, right? So in Jewish circles, children, instead of playing catch, play Gala. Have you? I don't know if you played Gala.
Not in my circles, no.
But in Yiddish circles, they would play Gala, and this came out of the fact that back during the Middle Ages, there were times when nannies, and the most famous case of this being, and the last case really of this, was Edgardo Martara, right? A nanny baptized a child that she thought that was actually very sick, and she thought it was going to die, and she wanted to save the child from hell, and this would happen, and what the Catholic Church would do is they would come and they would take the child away from its parents, because now the child was Christian and had to be raised by Christians, right? So there was this fear of galachs coming and taking you, and there were people who would tell their kids, if you're not a good kid, the galach is going to come and take you, right? That's the closest thing we had to fear of the Jews. But like little kids, like they don't understand. Like, yeah, it was just amazing to me. But like these are the monsters, Jews in a very real sense. If you are the monsters in Christian and Muslim mythology, right? And so are you really wondering why there is such hatred of Jews? Like, I mean, I could give you supernatural explanations, but
yeah, I feel like it's a lot of. I mean, this even goes to Trey's from a different direction. But Trey asked like the question about the Canaanites, or the 7 nations, and how are they different from like the Palestinians, for example. And I think a lot of this goes into literal and non-contextual, or no literal interpretations or literal readings of a text, and not going into it and understanding the
and little kids are preconceptual, right? They don't understand things, and that's why it's so dangerous when people, for example, will call somebody Amalek or something like that, right? But Baruch Hashem, like there's no people going around calling themselves one of the 7 nations. Like we don't have anything like that, because frankly they were destroyed, and nobody goes around calling themselves Amalekites, right? But when we go around calling ourselves Jews, I never really considered that, like, this child might have. I didn't even know the phrase "fear of the Jews." I never imagined, that this was a thing. Like, when I introduce myself, I say I'm Jewish to a child that's been exposed to this. Like, what else are they going to think?
Yeah.
We're almost done. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we ended the stream?
So Somehow from pizza we got to that. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm afraid to ask my next.
Oh, we were asking about Yosef. Me staying by Yosef?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, because Yosef was on that stream with PBK.
Mhm. But he made his own pizza, and it was good.
He made his own pizza, and it was, in fact, good. I got to pretend with his daughter. He made me pretend ice cream. It was very good. I got to meet his wife. It was interesting seeing her view of certain things that are going on in this low corner, which I can't talk about publicly, but it made me realize we need more female views, like female involvement in this low corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, they had a mug which had a picture of her with what used to be Prince Charles. So she did a fellowship in England, and she got a picture of her with Prince Charles on a mug. It's like, hey, now it's King Charles.
Yeah.
She could sell that mug for like dollars.
Yeah. Dozens.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So one of these days, we will all be together. Gam Yachat B'Yerushalayim.
Yeah. Wow. I completely forgot about it. Honestly.
About Yerushalayim?
About like a conference.
Oh yeah, the conference. Yeah. Well, it looks like that ain't happening anytime soon. Yeah. I mean, they could still do it in the summer. I kind of felt like, okay, now I don't feel so bad about the fact that certain people I trusted dropped a ball that I was hoping would not be dropped. But things happen. But yeah, it would have been canceled even if I had spent the time to organize it properly myself. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh.
Dan Smith says the women who are interested in the style of this platform will come organically. Unfortunately, there will not be. I don't think we will ever have anything close to a parity between men and women in something like this. Although, hopefully, we can have enough of a female presence that we can have a feminine perspective. So we're not completely divorced from the feminine perspective.
Yeah.
End stream?
And chill.